Magic begin.
And we're live.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. So what had happened was, Mom and Dad knew each other from various community work that they'd done. They lived in Ann Arbor, and I don't know the reason why, but Dad asked Mom out to see A New Hope. It was a blockbuster movie, and when I say blockbuster, it literally busted the block. The line was 2 hours long to go to the movie to watch the movie. So, and she hadn't seen it, and he had seen it, I believe, like several times by this point, and he loved it. So he was like, "Hey, you want to come?" And so they got in line, and it's a 2-hour wait. Like, there's no like advanced ticketing or anything like that. That's not a thing back then, apparently. And so they had 2 hours to just stand in line and talk to each other. Does not sound like a great first date, but I guess okay. I wasn't there. And they talked about what they wanted to do in the world, the kind of children they wanted to raise, and how they wanted to raise their future children. And then they went to see A New Hope. And they loved it so much that these two people on a first date got back in line to go watch the last show of the night at the movie.
They walked out the exit from the theater.
They walked out the exit and then literally just got back in line and got back in another 2-hour line, and then talked the whole time more about how they want, like, what they want for the world, the future world for their children. And I don't know. This is just what they've told me since. And they got along really well. Like, they really connected on a conversational level. And then they went to see it again, because eventually the 2-hour line moved. And they loved it. But during the line, while they were waiting to see the second show for them, the last showing of the night, Dad got excited and proposed to Mom and said, "Hey, I don't know if you've thought about this or you might be interested." What a great proposal. But if you're interested, I'd love to get married and raise children with you in this world that you talked about how you want to raise your kids. I would love to be part of that. And she said, and I quote, "I'll think about it." And then they went to see the movie. Like, it was like Dad had seen the ushers coming out to let everybody in. And that was when he proposed. And then they went in and they saw the second time of New Hope that night. And, I think he walked her to her car, and that was it. A couple days later, she called him up and said, "Did you mean to propose, or was that an accident?" And he said, "I meant it if you mean it. If you want me to mean it, I meant it. But if it makes you uncomfortable, don't worry about it." And she said, "Well, if you meant it, then I say yes." And that was literally what happened. And then they got married about 3 months later. So we are only here because of A New Hope, and A New Hope being such a blockbuster movie. This was their thing. And in fact, our family converted. It was Star Wars. Mom was not interested in Jaws, because I want to say, didn't that come out the same summer? Yeah. Right. Yeah. Mom was not interested in Jaws, and Dad wasn't, frankly, that impressed with the Jaws movie for, I don't know, reasons. And I think, was that the summer that, what is it, Kramer versus Kramer came out? There was some movie Mom wanted to see that Dad was like, "Oh, no." But they were able to, when he originally asked her out, they were able to figure out which movie that they could agree on. Because honestly, if they hadn't been able to find a movie that they were both interested in watching, there would never have been a first date, and we would not be here. So we do owe the Star Wars franchise a debt of gratitude, because at least we are here. And so this is our tip of the hat to say thank you. And also, this was their thing. And in fact, our family converses in movie tropes and, movie cliche lines and everything. And even in movie storylines, we communicate to each other of, like, it felt like today felt like this. Today felt like the opening scene in Jaws. We'll literally say those things to each other, and the other person in our family will automatically understand what we're talking about. Because let's keep in mind, autism is a communication disorder. It's hard to communicate with someone else when, your own brain is divergent enough from the norm that you don't have, like, you're not familiar with how their brain's working. So movies are the currency of our family's communication. And so we thought it would be really fun to talk about movies and storytelling, because this is what we do in our family all the time. Pretty much almost every single day. We will talk about it with at least one family member. And that's what we do. So we are here because of Star Wars. We are here because of Star Wars. It is not our favorite movies, please.
I joked about putting a trigger warning in the description for this episode, for this show, because we are not super fans. We have watched Star Wars a lot,
because Mom would clean the house to Star Wars, the original trilogy. Dad put it on one VHS, all 3 movies, and Mom would pop it in Saturday morning after the cartoons were over. And the option was stay, clean house, and watch Star Wars with her, or you get locked out of the house for the rest of the day till sunset.
And this only changed in the 90s when he made her a tape of James Bond.
Oh yeah, he made her 2 VHS eventually of the James Bond franchise, the 007 franchise.
That she liked.
Yeah. Yes. She had interesting opinions about Lazenby. I'm not going to get into that. That's not this episode. So
That's
anyway,
another story.
Okay. CB says, also, I think it is really important when you're first getting into writing to write for the love of writing, to write for the love of telling a story, and to, as the writer, to be able to write and get caught up in the action in your story. That is more important to hone that part of the craft than to work on editing or write with editing in mind. Oh, that is terrible when you get inside your own head and it's a hot mess. No. I think what you're doing is great. And that's very important. Also, I have read bits of your stuff, and frankly, you don't need that much editing / revision. Like, your flow and stuff is pretty good, I have to say. And I'm not trying to just blow you off. I mean that. I was kind of impressed because you gave me that link, CB, a couple weeks ago, and so I went and checked it out, and looks good. I mean, I did not think that it was a 0 draft, actually. So if it was, you're doing amazing, girl. Okay. I'm not sure what this was about, but yeah.
Go next.
Oh, okay. Yes. I find it's very helpful to read it aloud. It's even more helpful to read it aloud to a living being. I have read mine aloud to my dog back when, she was still with us. She has passed on. She was a mini dachshund. And, but mostly I like to read aloud to humans and kind of check their face while I'm reading it, because
humans are less judgy than your dog was.
She had opinions.
Yes, she did.
She had opinions about Queen. Anyway, look, she was a lovely person in other regards, so it's okay. We can forgive her. Also, she's passed on. It's fine. But yeah, I find during the rewrites to read it out loud to someone else to try to catch any little hiccups in flow are very helpful. Also, if there's a hiccup, you'll see it on their face, or I tend to see it on people's face where they're like, huh? They look a little bit like a puppy for a minute, huh? And that's and I will literally just make a little mark on the page, because I have to print mine out because I'm dyslexic, and the printed gray print look tends to move a lot for me in a digital format, like on a tablet. But so I have mine printed out, and I just literally mark it right there, try to work on the flow there, because somebody gave me a puppy dog look. So I do that, and that is how I tried not to edit it to death, although that is not really a total guarantee.
We're actually talking last night. We were talking last night about grammar does not matter nearly as much as we were told it matters about in writing. Well, at least for fiction writing. It really doesn't matter that much as long as your reader gets the emotional concept you're trying to get across. As long as that happens, which again is why the best way to edit is to just read out loud, because you can hear what the reader will probably understand you to be saying
right? Also, you'll hear if the flow gets choppy, you'll literally hear it in your own voice. Or you can record yourself and then listen back. If you have a hard time listening to yourself while you read aloud your work, and then you can hear it, and like while you go along with it, and that you can mark like, oh, it started sounding choppy, so maybe I need to work on the wording right here. Because it's a flow. Flow matters for the reader. You don't want anything to disrupt their suspension of disbelief. You want it to seem like, hey, I'm here, take my hand, we're going on an adventure together. That's how you want it, like, to feel, except it's in print. But when you've written something that works really well for the reader, they will be able to hear a voice in their head reading it aloud to them. Like as if you are there as the writer telling them the story rather than it printed out. And that's the goal. That is the goal, to make the words come alive so that they can hear it in their head metaphorically. I mean, and also why is it this way? So we were going to go over the storytelling stuff. Sometimes the storytelling works for us and sometimes it's anemic. So that was what we were going to go over because all right, real quick. So Authortube, CreatorTube, WriterTube, whatever you want to call it, I don't care. I see all of these videos and live streams about writing, about the mechanics of writing. And that is cool, and it is important, and I absolutely love it. But, I mean, I've been watching, this community on YouTube since February or March, probably. Yeah, maybe, let's say March.
Yeah.
And hardly anyone ever talks about storytelling. But there is no story without storytelling. So why do we focus on the mechanics and not on the telling of the story? I can literally just talk and tell you a story, or I can write it down, but I'm still telling a story. And I was like, why doesn't anybody talk about this? Because we are from the Deep South, where storytelling is a daily, hourly activity. Like, you cannot get in line at the grocery store, or at least before the pandemic anyway. You get in line at the grocery store, and either you're about to tell someone a story about some adventure you had in the grocery store looking for some item, or they're about to tell you a story. And I mean, we're all strangers. We don't, even though, in small southern towns, we don't actually know each other very well. We may have seen each other before, but we're not even necessarily on a name basis. Yeah. But everybody tells stories. And so to go from a entire geolocation where people tell stories all the time, everybody has stories. Everybody has stories about how they got to work. And to go from that to, this writing community where hardly anybody talks about storytelling other than essentially in passing, let alone to tell the stories, is jarring. It's surprising. And I was like, hey, let's do this, because we kind of wanted something that was a little bit more fun to do to get through Nano and the holidays. So that's what we're doing. We're going to do this for the rest of all the way through December, because we thought, look, you don't even have to watch the movies that we're going to talk about for you to enjoy conversing with us, because we're really going to be talking about the mechanics of storytelling and what works and what doesn't work, and maybe why doesn't it work. We're all going to discuss it, because that's a pastime here in the Deep South. And we're just trying to cultivate it online.
I was catching up on the back catalog for a BBC radio panel show called Museum of Curiosity, and someone in there mentioned, I want to say maybe it was Joseph Campbell, it may have been someone else talking about, and they were explaining the line, the worst thing that ever happened to stories was the written word.
I've heard that too.
And it was
although I thought maybe it was T.S. Eliot or someone, but you know what?
It might be T.S. Eliot.
Not important. It's probably not either of them.
And they were explaining that it's not that, the horrors of writing it down. It's that once it's written down, it doesn't change again. Versus when we tell stories, we then if someone tells us a good story, we're then going to go tell someone else this story, but we're going to change it in little bits, and it's going to get revised, and it's just like Shakespeare. People talk about how great and wonderful Shakespeare. What almost no one discusses or talks about is that there's almost no surviving original scripts written by Shakespeare. Almost all scripts for Shakespearean plays were written 50 to 100 years after Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And which means that they had been worked on, they had been ironed out, so that, you know, every line punched, every joke got that laugh.
Yeah, they were workshopping it. I mean, 70 plus years of acting troupes workshopping the plays. They are going to get honed. I mean, seriously, if you performed even yearly every Shakespearean play, you're going to get better at it. You're going to figure out how to like put the emphasis, how to twist the word. You're going to figure it out. And I mean, that's not something that writers get to do other than in the revision, the editing and revision process. But from what I understand, most people do not write the way I write, which is I will do a 0 draft, and then a first draft, and then 20 edits. And they are, each edit, it's a whole round. And then I give it several days to even several weeks till I've forgotten all of it. I just remember like the basic ideas of the story. And then I do another edit. And apparently 20 edits for even a nonfiction article or humorous column is weird. And let me tell you how hard it is when you're doing a weekly column and you're trying to get 15 to 20 edits in. It, like, I have other tricks actually, so I'll forget it because I do have disassociation. So I got like, it's a little easier for me. But it's nevertheless, it is a minimum. I've never sent something to print in a newspaper or magazine that did not have a minimum, an absolute minimum of 12 full rounds of edit, which involved flow, grammar, punchline. It involved everything. So it's real full edits. And so it is like odd to me that there are people, and I'm not trying to, you know, shame anybody on this. I don't think this, but it's like, it is foreign to me that there are people who only do 2 rounds of edits and then go publish. And they publish books that way. And I'm like, wait, what? Because I just don't have that language because I'm so used to storytelling. Because every time I tell the story, I'm essentially working on the edit. I'm workshopping every story down to mom and dad and their first date. I can't tell you, I've been telling this story for over 20 years and I'm still not satisfied with my story. I still mess it up sometimes. I still accidentally find out there's good little twists and turns. So like the whole emphasis on the 2-hour thing has worked out really well, at least locally, when I workshop this story. So every time I tell the story, it is like an edit round. And so, but like once it's written down, people apparently don't edit and revise often or at all, versus the kind of thing that actually got me into writing in the 21st century, like where I am now, of like, hey, okay, let's start working on stories and anthologies and working on books, was I found out a couple years ago while I was a librarian that with ebooks, the writer, the author, can revise the story and it will automatically go out to everybody who's purchased it. And I was like, my dream come true. Because, like, have you ever written something and you thought it was done, and then there you are, middle of the night, a month later, going, but if I had just reworded this one paragraph this way, it would really have had a good punch. Have you ever? Anyone else? Just me? Maybe.
And
that was like some comments. Read all the Star Wars books and told me all about them chapter by chapter. So I felt like I did not need. Yes, he should be here. If only. Maybe he can watch it on the replay. I don't know. We'll find out. Let's see. I have the Star Wars characters. Like, well, while we're talking, I love Rey. I love Darth Vader. I had a total crush as a kid on Darth Vader. Oh yes, I did have some issues. And then this is my other Darth. I heart Darth. Okay. So anyway, I thought Jaws was earlier than Star Wars. You know what? Don't quote me. I don't know. I saw Star Wars then Empire on the same day as a double feature. Okay, that sounds pretty cool. And that was kind of how I was watching it. All right. Full disclosure. I did fall asleep trying to watch every single of this trilogy yesterday and today.
And
just lulls me.
Now some of it though, we might be able to blame a little bit on the, speaking of who was it? Penumbra was saying, of editing things to death. Of we were watching the re-edited late 90s version of the movies, the special editions of Star Wars.
I watched the re-edited version because I figured that was more readily available for people, so I should be talking about that version rather than what I prefer, which is the despecialized version, but I know that's a lot harder for some people to find. And
but
so
I have to say, like, the despecialized was the first time we ever watched a version of Star Wars. They were like, oh, I see why people kept going back to the theaters to watch this. This is a fun version.
Yeah, like, I mean, if you can find the despecialized where it lurks on the dark web, like from the first bat, it's like, why does this crawl here for A New Hope? Well, for all of them, A New Hope though, and it was, what is this about? Nothing about this actually is important to the story. I don't need to read it to understand what's going on in the entire movie. Why are they wasting my time and making me read print that is moving pretty quickly at a weird angle? Why are you making me uncomfortable? We're about to meet Vader. Don't kill my buzz. You know what? Honestly, what's his name? Alec Guinness could have done a freaking amazing job. And I literally had this thought while I was watching the trilogy over the last 24 hours. Was Alec Guinness would have been a great narrator for this because he dies so early and then does not leave the show. He keeps coming back. Well, he doesn't leave it. He dies early, but he doesn't leave, so he'd be perfect narrator.
He comes back in both of the sequels.
I know. I love it.
He's showing up.
I love it. And then at a certain point, I'm like, why are you even talking to Yoda? Are they saying anything important? And the answer, no. They're just two aldercockers. Just, Luke, don't go. Anyway.
After just sort of binging them. The trilogy last night.
I'm listening.
Was...
Yes.
I could definitely tell George Lucas shot more than was put into the movie in episode 4. I mean, what almost no one talks about is the movie George Lucas originally put together was awful. His friends literally got together, including Stanley Kubrick, and I believe the woman who would become his wife.
I don't know. I don't remember if they were married yet or not.
And then literally re-edited it to make something that was actually entertaining.
Make something coherent.
Or else Luke's whining would have gone even longer at the beginning of the movie.
Oh!
I mean, the beginning of the original version he did not hook you.
Can we talk about Luke's whining and how I just want to slap that farm boy? I mean, I know teenagers have a tendency to whine, but that boy was like making a good case for not having been beaten enough by Uncle Owen. And I don't normally like to say that sort of thing, but he was whining about not going to get to see his friends. He was whining about having to do work. I mean, they're on a subsistence farm, for heaven's sakes. He was and then when he was given the option to go out, he's like, no, he was whining about that. Like, you could not make him happy. Just this sad little farm boy out in Midwestern planet in the galaxy.
And then, I mean, and you can see the same problem George has every time, because in the next movie, it's, 20 minutes till there's any action and 35 minutes till there's any story in Empire Strikes Back?
It's actually, like, it's sort of the other way around. It's like 20 minutes in is, I think, when the kiss happens that Leia does just to tick off Hans.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's 35 minutes before the mindless action scenes that mean nothing finally end. I mean, hardly anybody talks with any storyline content for the first 35 minutes. It is so boring unless you are a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
In which case, it's great. You'll enjoy it. Yeah. But if you're looking for a plot, no. Plot does not begin. I checked. Plot does not begin until around 35 to 40 minutes into Empire Strikes Back. What?
Yeah, I am fascinated that some people talk about Empire Strikes Back being their favorite movie. And maybe it's because it's the easiest to talk with other people about. Because there's very little actual story in there, but there's still memorable scenes. But you don't have to pay much attention to keep up in that movie. Okay. You could totally be drinking.
First off, Empire was always my favorite as a child. Empire was always my favorite as a child. I think I know why, though. The music, the soundtrack is fantastic. I still love it. Here we are, 30-something years later after the first time I ever watched it, and I still love the soundtrack. Like, I literally was watching it overnight last night, and I was thinking to myself, gosh, I need to, see if somebody's uploaded the whole soundtrack to YouTube or Spotify or something, because I would love to just listen to the entire soundtrack from Empire Strikes Back. That is beautiful music. It is so cool. And also, I do love Vader's theme. Oh, yeah. Okay, so anyway, I did not have time to watch the despecialized version 2. I kind of wish I had, because I was wondering if the despecialized starts off the same, where we're on the ship with Leia.
Yeah.
And Vader is hunting for her, or hunting for somebody.
Yeah, that is the original.
Okay.
It's always been the start.
Okay. And then we go to, look, which is what you should do in a first act. It's time to introduce all your main characters. We meet Darth Vader. We think he's the big bad villain. He is not the big. This is what, at watching it in my early 40s, I have learned. When I was a kid, I thought Darth Vader was the big bad villain, and I really did not understand the corporation of the Empire. But now I'm like, what is this? It's like, okay, there's 2 layers of tropes here. So you've got the trope of the old Dark Knight, or the old, I'm going to go with Dark Knight, even though I'm not talking about Batman. But the old Dark Knight, and then the new Knight being trained by, the guy who's about to die. And they're going to battle it out. And then, though, that is not enough for this story. Then it is also like a tale of good and evil, of the Rebel Alliance versus executives at a board table? A board meeting? I mean, okay.
Yeah, Darth Vader never sits down. He's not part of the board.
It is so weird. He just keeps pacing around like a dog. It is what is happening here? There are layers, and I don't know if I'm picking up on 70s nuances here. So, which, I mean, we've seen, especially in the last few years, how corporations and postmodern capitalism has not been the saving grace of society. I know, so controversial. So it's not that I think, oh, well, this is wrong or anything. It's just more like, wait, what story are we telling? Because I feel like we're telling several stories at once, and it's kind of, frankly, getting muddled. Now, in Empire, because, and I am about to spoil it for everybody. No, I'm kidding. Is the Death Star blows up in the first movie. I mean, what a move. And that meant, what was it? Moff Tarkin?
Yeah.
Moff
Tarkin. The 5-star general.
Right.
Grand Moff.
Grand Moff.
He's the one in charge of the military.
There's also generals, though, because I was watching the credits, and it was like, okay, wait, we've got Moffs and generals. This is getting confusing. Whatever. But because I guess they were all on the Death Star, because why not, right? Everybody loves a show. So you'd want to be on the big boat, the big yacht, to go see all the planets you blow up, I guess. I don't know. Or maybe this is their corporate headquarters. It's confusing, and they don't ever go over it.
Yeah.
And since they all got blown up, and Darth Vader just happened to be out in space chasing Luke, because, like you do. Darth Vader is the only surviving top tiers or semi-top tiers of the corporation, as best I can figure.
Yeah.
Hence, in Empire Strikes Back, he's got a swivel chair. going to leave that there for a minute. And everybody that we then see who's part of the Empire, like who doesn't have their face mask on, it's like a real person versus the faceless ones. Everybody with a face is relatively young compared to a lot of the people we saw on the Death Star at the corporate board meeting. So
really, didn't Grand Moff Tarkin looked like death had already come for him? And he's like, no, I've still got work to do.
I just wanted to give him a sandwich so bad. Like, here, just sit down, rest, eat a little, maybe some soup. Yeah, Grandpa, eat a little soup. Yeah. I mean, other than he was evil, and I hoped he died. So then now it's Empire Strikes Back. And they're gonna. It's a story about construction. It's about an enormous interstellar construction site, I guess, full of young people.
Thinking of Return of the Jedi?
No, I thought I was thinking of Empire Strikes Back, because aren't they rebuilding? They're on the destroyer.
Yeah, they're on they're just on his Star Destroyer.
Oh, okay. That's where all the young people and teal hats. I don't know. Okay. So now they're on a Star Destroyer, and it just doesn't feel as fancy, I guess.
Yeah.
So now the corporation's like, we need a new construction project. And that's in Return of the Jedi, where they're trying to rebuild, or build another Death Star, because money's no object, I guess.
Yeah.
And it worked out so well the first time.
This time they're going to do it better.
I mean, would it have been so bad to, have little mini Death Stars? So, it's harder to blow them all up? So,
that's the idea of a Star Destroyer, is that, it's the tiniest version. But he's like, but no. They even talked about later on of, in the mythos, that this was the Tarkin idea of battle, of you want the biggest weapon possible to make everyone afraid to try to battle you, versus the biggest weapon possible just means it's a giant target.
Yeah.
And that's the real reason that the Rebels even had a chance, is because so much resources went to these Death Stars.
They put all their eggs in one basket. Do they not have this phrase in their galaxy?
Maybe not.
I mean,
we don't really see eggs show up much.
We don't really see chickens show up, or really any kind of small bird livestock. Yeah. Now that you mention,
But one thing that worked in the first and didn't in the third, was. So everyone talks about, how bad the shooting is by the stormtroopers in the first movie, and then it just continues on to become a joke. Of Obi-Wan says, "Oh no, all stormtroopers are expert shots, and yet they keep missing."
Mm-hmm.
But there is a 10-second scene, which is really fun to watch. Especially now that we watched it again, it is hilarious. Where right after they escape from the Death Star initially. They rescue the princess. Grand Moff Tarkin says, "Did you get the tracker put on the ship?" Because he let them go. They were purposely let go. All the stormtroopers were purposely missing. Mm-hmm. And, they wanted this to happen because they could care less about these couple people. They want to know, where are all the rebels?
Right. They want to follow the rabbit back to the Warren to find all of them, which, is not a bad move.
And they literally do that, like the 20-something-year-olds who are just on their first job. Those, the idiots who are just the newbies. They literally go back to...
Do they not know? Don't ever go directly home. You might be followed. How have they never... they don't have chickens, so okay. But how do they not know this one? Do people not stalk each other in this galaxy?
I know, just...
Also, the incompetence of youth.
Versus, in the third movie, where we have these Ewoks that, C-3PO suddenly becomes the ruler of. And there is never... They could have spent, literally 10 seconds, just like that scene with Grand Moff Tarkin, to explain that the Ewoks, have been dealing with the stormtroopers and the Empire for the last, year or several years. trying to get them away from their land, and they've been getting harassed by the stormtroopers, which is why they have all these weapons.
Right.
That specifically work on, giant metal creatures and stormtroopers.
Right.
They don't say anything, so it looks like just all of a sudden these little, teddy bears have weapons that are really good at attacking creatures more than twice and, 10 times their size. Already set up in this forest. Like, it is the weirdest coincidence.
Mm-hmm. I agree. It definitely needed a little bit of it. And that's where, like, anemic storytelling is problematic. It's most of what I thought it was going to be. CB says, I don't think he can actually sit down. Again, if only we had invested in medicine in this world. If only. Maybe we could, like, cover him in tilapia skin to help his skin recover from all the burns. MM says the classic tale of knights on the surface, but underneath there was a commentary against political and corporate agendas before anyone looked for those levels. And then Disney bought it. So, yeah.
Talk about getting meta there.
It's very meta. Darth Vader is a government hitman / Blackwater ops leader.
Yep.
Let's see. CB says, okay, now I know I think of the idiot at the White House when I hear the Imperial March. LOL.
Yes.
Preach it. MM says the Death Star was a metaphor for the nuclear arms race because during the 1970s and 1980s, there was the Cold War, and the race to build the perfect peacekeeping missile was a real endeavor. I mean, I'm so glad nobody saw the irony. Yes, the Ewoks are so cute. The little teddy bears.
Yeah, I was surprised watching it again as an adult.
They're so cute.
I was not that annoyed or upset with the Ewoks. That was not actually what annoyed me at all in the third movie.
MM says when the Death Star blew up, they foolishly assumed, I think they're talking about the Rebel Alliance.
Yeah.
Foolishly assumed they won, not realizing the fleet and the planet-killing weapons were safe.
I don't know what's a good way to call them. Secret heroes? The real heroes? Of, like, in the first movie, Princess Leia and Chewie are the defined real heroes.
Right, they're competent and they're confident, and it's not misplaced confidence. They're confident because they know they are competent. And also, like we see from the very start, when the princess is rescued, she immediately is like, "Give me that gun," and starts actually aiming and hitting targets rather than just shooting blindly in the air. Like, I'm sorry, I thought you were shooting womp rats, Luke. What is this nonsense? Why did he suddenly see her and he can't aim? Okay. I just heard it out in my... I'm not ready for this.
There's a lot of recoil on that gun.
Anyway.
George Lucas is a perv, okay?
I know. There's no bras in space. Are you kidding me?
Speaking as a perv, I know when someone's being a perv.
You're not a real perv.
But damn, watching her fire that gun. Oh.
I just wanted to give her a sports bra just for a little support. Those poor babies. I mean,
yeah.
It looked painful. It looked just so much. No, the ladies need support. Yeah, apparently there's no jogging in the other galaxy.
No.
So, anyway. So, yeah, like, Luke is supposed to be the hero. This is, like, wasn't this one of the first movies that was acknowledged to be following Joseph Campbell's hero's journey?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it was one of the first ones to actually just take it and run with it.
Right? Is everybody familiar with that? Let me know if you're not. I will find it on the internet and share screen. And instead, it's supposedly following him, but it's not, like, because actually the real hero is Leia, and her knight is Chewie, because Chewie is the one who takes care of Leia. Chewie is the one who's always sort of in the background, making sure that Leia is fine, Leia is taken care of, and if anything, he also acts as a bouncer a few times throughout the whole series.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, yeah. You know, I just want to pet things. But Leia she's the one who actually knows what she's doing. She knows how to do it, and she goes about it. She doesn't ask permission. She's got a whole set of in her mission. She knows what she's doing. Versus Luke is just wandering around like, what shall I do now? Where shall I go? Oh, is this what I'm doing now? And every once in a while, when he really becomes aimless, Obi-Wan from the grave goes, go to Dagobah.
I know. I love that they kill him. They kill him off halfway through the movie, and then he just keeps showing up for these in the rest of the movies, in the stories. Like, Obi-Wan just doesn't stay away.
He is that grandpa.
Mm-hmm. I mean, God, Luke is such an idiot. I understand why he can't leave well enough alone.
He's a himbo. He's supposedly good at shooting things, and then anytime you actually really need him to shoot it, he's terrible at it, except for the one time it's integral to the story.
Mm-hmm.
And then the one time, use the Force. And then Obi-Wan is still having to coach him from the dead. Use the Force, Luke. Hey, idiot, I've already trained you, but remember what I trained you? You're literally supposed to do it right now. And Luke's like, okay. He wants to be a Jedi. Does he follow what his Jedi masters tell him? No. So for me, it's no surprise that he eventually goes to the dark side, except I'm frankly not expecting him to do any better on the dark side. I'm expecting to be just as incompetent and to ignore Vader as well. He's a terrible...
He didn't have a problem with being a nerf herder.
That's fine.
I mean, then again, Han is incompetent at his job.
Well, why do you think he got caught in the first place and had to dump all the cargo? And that's why, Jabba has a bounty out for him. I mean, yeah, because he's not good at smuggling.
As well as why did he get tracked back to the Rebel base? Because Chewie's job is the mechanic and to fly the ship. Right. Han's supposed to be the smuggler one, and he didn't check the outside before they left.
I cannot stand when your job is something that's attention to detail and you don't do the one thing, paying attention to detail, if that's your job. Everyone says everyone was more interested in Leia because it was the age when the women's movement was just regaining momentum after the debacle of the late 1960s. Sadly, hero has to save the damsel trope. Yep. Yeah. Oh. I'm so tired of movies and TV shows and really all media glorifying the incompetent person.
Mm-hmm.
How about a little love given to the people who spend the time and effort to learn the skills? They apprentice, they work with people, they ask for feedback, and then they don't get upset when they get feedback. They appreciate that somebody explained to them what they're messing up. I mean, hi, room for improvement. It's great.
I mean, I love that line in Star Wars of, Leia when she's on the Death Star, of, looking at Darth Vader of, oh, did you let him off the chain?
His leash or whatever. Yeah,
his leash. Yeah, his leash.
Yeah.
Also, if you ever rewatch Star Wars, have fun now as an adult noticing Darth Vader and the way he both has no personal space and creeps on everyone. I keep waiting to see him pet somebody's hair.
Or sniff their hair. He does it to both Leia and Tarkin in the first movie. And I'm like, oh my God, he is so close. How does he not get away, dude? Don't touch me. It looks like he's sniffing everybody's hair. It's so weird. Why? Why is he doing this?
And then it's probably because they had him do his own stunts, because I think he was a stunt person.
Yeah, he was a stunt guy.
The one, who's actually in the costume.
Yeah.
But maybe it's because of that, or maybe it was direction. But more than half the time, he walks like an old man. Like he is in so much pain.
Mm-hmm.
Of that walk of an old person who just their joints are going.
If that they could stumble and fall at any point. That's how he walks. I've noticed it now in all the movies. It is weird. There are other times where he walks fine, but a lot of the time he walks like he's in slippery shoes on a slippery surface, and he's trying not to bust his butt. It's the oddest thing. I'm like, that is not the walk of an assured dark Jedi.
No, he looks like he should have retired 10 years ago. And Palpatine's like, no. You signed up for this job, you gotta get rid of all the Jedi.
We know how young he is because he was underage. Hello, statutory rape. He was underage when the kids were conceived, so he can't even be 40 at this point. Why is he like? I mean, I realize
they do not have good medical technology in the Star Wars universe.
Best. I didn't know it was possible to have a world worse than the one we live in right now, technology-wise. Okay, my mother had to contact him, and then, Vader was basically a torso and a head.
Because that early scene on the Death Star with Leia, Gloria and I both had the same thought of, why has Leia not need Vader? Because he is so close. Like, just knee him in the crotch.
Yeah, I mean, I would have, honestly just elbowed him at the very least. I mean, at least you're going to find out that he wears a protective cup. Or did that burn off? I don't know. I mean, let's be really honest. Vader is disabled, and we never talk about it.
Yeah.
It's truly some sort of ableism going on. We never discuss, I mean, because, we do see, the helmet go on, and I think Empire Strikes Back, and honestly, we see from behind, and he looks like a scoop of banana split ice cream. And then, but we never discuss it, are we supposed to be horrified? Because, I mean, if anything, it's more it's rough, maybe that's why he's walking stiff. I mean, but surely the Empire could spend some money investing in medical technology. Why is this not a thing? It's just about empire building. Wait till they get to the edge of the galaxy. I don't know what's going on. I don't understand.
I mean, they have now retconned reasons for all of this, but they didn't bring it up in any of the movies.
In a cyborg body. Yeah. I'm like, we need to know, did he have a cup? I need to know. Vince walks like he has a wedgie. Yes, he has several joints that have had to be replaced. Probably has some fused joints, too. You have to imagine that he was in horrible pain all the time because burns of that level never completely stop hurting. For real. I mean, why was he still working?
Because there's no health care without a job, Glory. This is an American galaxy. The Empire is America.
It really is wow, there was so much foretelling here of what we are all dealing with, here in America, I mean. If only. I mean, I don't think George Lucas meant to make Darth Vader a sympathetic character, but the more I think it through, the more I'm I'm now that age. I'm now literally older than Anakin was at the time of, the trilogy. And I'm he's doing great, all things considered. I mean, but do they have ibuprofen there? He needs something. The whole Star Wars franchise. So, the best part. MM says the mockery of Jar Jar Binks and his people, or earlier, the Ewoks have always bugged me because they were always considered lesser people. Exactly. They're treated like they're second-class citizens or even less than that. And it has been always very weird and not nice. I mean...
The infantilizing of these aliens as an entire group.
I mean, look, I really want to meet teddy bear people. But I'm not going to, think that they're little children, even though they're all full grown and some of them are elders. No, they're people. They're fully formed people. It's just, it's going to be a life goal to get to know them well enough so that they'll let me pet their ears. Will I succeed? Who knows? I don't know. But I mean, I'm good at petting things. So I feel like it's a selling point. And that's just
Lori has a lifelong dream of someday knowing humans, cat people will exist. And she wants to pet the cat people's ears.
Yes, I do. CV says exactly it's bothered them as well. R2D2, the future leader of the android overlord. In fantasy, it's really nice to just go, no, I want them to be better than how humans are. So have you ever noticed how people who have been oppressed, especially for a long period of time, when they finally come to power, usually through an overthrow or whatever, then they just turn around and oppress people too. And it's like, have you learned nothing from your own oppression? That really drives me nuts. It's like a serious personal pet peeve of mine. And in my headcanon, I like to believe that the androids did not turn around and oppress everybody else, but had learned from all the lessons. Look, it's fantasy. I can think of it that way. So anyway, back to R2D2 as the Moses of the androids of the galaxy.
But he really helped it. Him being the storyteller much better explains a lot of things that happen in these stories, including also why is it only when he's around that you really see these things happen? Because that's what he knew. Because a lot of other things had to have happened, but you don't see them play out, and it's a great way to kind of excuse the poor storytelling that is George Lucas.
Yeah, because it's an android telling each other androids.
Yes, as well as like the reason all the prequel trilogy writing is so stiff. I mean, I still remember like there's a quote, or at least a semi-quote, of Mark Hamill talking to Hayden Christensen of, okay, your first mistake was actually saying the lines that were written. No one in the original movie said the lines George wrote. We all pretended like we couldn't remember them, and we just sort of made them up as we went, because his dialogue is awful.
Which we've now seen evidence of in the first 3 movies.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, you were going to mention about the alternate universe book with Leia.
Oh, yeah. So I looked it up. Actually, it was a comic book. Dark Horse did it in the 2000s called Star Wars Infinities, where they did the original trilogy, the different movies as different alternate universe, like Marvel does What Ifs. And in their version of the third movie, Leia gets trained because Luke died on Hoth. He froze to death. And she is a lot better and stronger as a Jedi.
No surprises here.
And then it's kind of what they then took with them into the after trilogy of, no, in some ways Leia is at least as strong as Luke, if not possibly stronger. Because she has a better, at least especially for the movies, she has a better control of her own mind. I mean,
she does have more mental discipline, it's true.
Luke never stops being a whiny bitch.
He's so whiny. I mean, it really does show how he is mentally immature.
And he never really grows up.
Well, no, because like he can freaking move things with his mind. So why would he need to process trauma?
I mean, in the books, in the original, like the expanded universe that happened after the movies, that was written about in the 2000s and the 90s, he did grow up. He did mature. He did become much better and really became like Obi-Wan. But in this version that Disney did, no, he's a bitch.
A planet close to their projected path that scout satellites reported having a similar atmosphere as Earth with a rather calm weather and ocean system. An ideal planet to investigate. When they got closer, scout data gatherers detected chloroform-type vegetation, but no independently moving type life forms on land, and only small sea creatures in the ocean, not even large life forms like whales and leviathans. It seemed like an ideal planet for a brief few days stop along their trip. The team followed procedures, sending down scout observers first to bring samples back for analysis, but all those samples implied the same thing. This planet was empty of any possibility of sentient life. The scientists aboard the ship were experiencing cabin fever after traveling several years since the last space station visit, and were suddenly feeling a strong desire to breathe non-recycled air and feel the silence of standing on a solid planet instead of the constant hum of their ship. A ship-wide meeting was held. A plan was made for all crew members to go in 2 rotations planet-side to gather further data and a few hours of R&R. Team 1 went down. They observed some beautiful rainbow-colored fish at the shore's edge, whose scales seemed to sparkle in water due to the unique refraction qualities of this planet's ocean. Dr. Samantha Wu, who had loved studying ocean life as a child while still wearing her regulation form-fitting full bodysuit, observed the rainbow fish-like creatures seemed curious about the visitors who were congregating at various points along the shoreline. Dr. Wu even went so far as to insert a hand into the shallow water as the little playful creatures flocked to her hand, and it felt to Samantha like they were caressing her wiggling fingers. She in turn petted their sleek bodies while Dr. G. Johnson recorded the entire interaction. Otherwise, Team 1's planet-side trip was uneventful. Team 2's trip confirmed most of the findings of Team 1, except the rainbow sea creatures were no longer found along the shoreline. Dr. Diamond Delamy did have quite a surprise when he got close to the vegetation growing near the beachhead where the team landed. He was recording the appearance of vegetation for later analysis when he had such a shock he almost stepped on a curious small-scaled and furry creature who was observing him as he approached the edge of the bushes. When he exclaimed, "Oh!" out of surprise, the adorable animal, approximately the size of a guinea pig, took a few steps back but didn't run away in fear or revulsion. It waited for Diamond to bend down and then walk closer to sniff him in a full radius. Diamond lowered his left hand, and the furry, fluffy, scaled creature approached his hand to caress Diamond's fingers, weaving in and out, causing Diamond to wiggle his fingers so the creature could move freely. The remainder of Team 2's planet-side trip was uneventful. The crew remained orbiting the planet for a few days while packaging all their observed and analyzed data to install into a space buoy-type satellite to share and exchange data with any passing ships. And then the ship resumed its course to the supernova. Several years later, as the crew was returning from their mission, they decided to stop by their pet planet and see if the weather was agreeable, have a little more scientific observation in R&R, it hurts. The ship locked onto the observation buoy to download its collected data and were shocked to see what appeared to be relics of a civilization on the planet's continent where nothing but vegetation had been a few years ago. As the crew compared data, the ship received a hail. It was a recorded hail from a satellite, a foreign satellite. Each scientific observation buoy comes preloaded with basic information like that loaded onto the space probe Voyager 1 and 2, along with a wide variety of maps and a more in-depth study of the common human language and human history. The data on the alien buoy seemed to have tried to copy the types of introductory data preloaded to aid in communication, but with some startling differences, specifically having to do with the passage of time. Humans experience the passage of time in a straightforward one-direction fashion. But the civilization who left the buoy and apparently also left the relics on the planet experience time as a full dimension, meaning they can experience all points of time at once, and therefore can travel back and forth at will through their own timeline. They seem to have eventually figured out how to travel back and forth through their species' existence timeline, where they observed the science crew team's visits, which would explain why the buoy's greeting video was a fluffy, furry, scaled creature about half the height of a human, wiggling its fingers downward in greeting, while smiling and giggling. Diamond looked at Samantha. "Aw, they have your giggle." She replied in kind, "And your finger wiggle. We have accidentally made an interstellar species together." That was as far as I got.
Particular still with the stories, so I thought, maybe we should we start, with HeadCannon. Which is sort of like I think of as junior fan fiction. Because it is what you extrapolate out in your head to answer questions not directly answered in your fiction. And I know you usually enjoy my headcanons. And this is based on... Okay, I got into Star Wars in the 90s and 2000s, so let me preface this by, I don't know what is now considered canon in, the Disney world, the Disney Star Wars universe. But in the before times, one of the things they actually mentioned in the books is that R2-D2 actually has a backup memory module that Anakin installed way back when he was working, when Anakin had him as a robot. And what this did was whenever R2, every week, they don't talk about it, but in the universe, every week, all droids get their memories wiped to keep them from ever revolting again. But R2 keeps his memory backed up, and then after the memory wipe, just restores his memory. So he can remember things that no other droid in the galaxy does. I mean, we actually see a little bit of that in the prequels in the episode 1 with all those droids. You know, that's part of why they were rebelling, was the droids wanted more rights.
What an amazing shock. I mean, what's that about?
And so the headcanon that really helps explain the prequel trilogy, as well as some other stuff that goes on, like, why do you keep seeing C-3PO and R2 throughout all of it? Like, this is so weird. Is that we're
following the same droids?
Yeah. Is that the storyteller is actually R2-D2 far in the future, and what this is really a story of is how he freed the droids and got them rights.
I do like this headcanon. This is my favorite headcanon.
And the only way he could figure to do that was to be near the people who are, changing the galaxy around. And that's why he keeps staying near the Skywalkers, is they are where, the battles happen.
Mm-hmm.
And he is trying to, and that's also why he's always trying to befriend the Skywalkers and keep them going. If they get enough power, they could actually sway opinion and stop this enslavement. Because they talk about having a little, what is the first thing we see R2 do when Luke gets him, but tricks Luke into removing his little slave bolt so he can have full access to his functions again.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't need it to actually display that video of Leia in episode 4. He does that to, because he wants his freedom.
He's like, oh, look at this thing I have. Don't you want to go?
Look, I have a pretty girl.
Pretty girl. Hello.
You're a teen. I know you like pretty girls.
Right.
And so the whole point of all these stories, including, like, why in the world in the prequel trilogy does R2-D2, who's supposed to be an astromech, all of a sudden is he able to fly short distances and perform these crazy maneuvers? But when you're retelling your own story, you embellish a little.
Yeah, I like the whole idea that all the Star Wars movies, all the Star Wars stories are being told by R2-D2 around whatever the droid version is of a campfire, as he is regaling the freed droids with the story of how I, R2-D2, have spent 100 years with by using the Skywalkers and their associates to free my people, you the droids. Learn to appreciate this. This is his adventure story. This is how I did it. This is how I freed you all. You can be grateful. And so, of course, there's embellishment. But also, like, R2-D2 does keep showing up because, again, like a lot of storytelling, especially proto-mythical, proto-biblical type storytelling, it is from R2-D2's perspective. So all the important bits are where R2-D2 was there.
Yeah.
Or where it's necessary to move the story forward. And that's pretty much what we actually see in, I'm going to say, movies 1 through 6, because all right, let's say 1 through 7, because that was as far as I got. Okay, obviously, I do like Rey, but yeah, I didn't make it through 8. So that's what, like, our headcanon is. This is all told from R2-D2's side, his version, or its version. Yeah. And
who knows what kind of
I don't know what genders androids have. Like, do they have genders? Is our gender? I guess technically you could make an argument.
I mean, You can't convince me that R2-D2 doesn't have a masculine gender concept and curses up a storm versus C-3PO, definitely feminine.
Are you saying that feminine genders cannot curse up a storm? Have you not heard me? Fuck you.
No. I was just saying both of those. That it's both masculine as well as that's why R2-D2 is constantly bleeped throughout all the series, is that he's just cursing.
Okay, now you're going into the Robot Chicken headcanon.
Oh,
which Robot Chicken version of Star Wars is pretty good, I have to say. Highly recommend.
Quote, or at least a semi-quote, of Mark Hamill talking to Hayden Christensen of, okay, your first mistake was actually saying the lines that were written. No one in the original movie said the lines George wrote. We all pretended like we couldn't remember them, and we just sort of made them up as we went. Because his dialogue is awful.
Which we've now seen evidence of in the first 3 movies.
Yes. The sequel trilogy was going to be. So the midichlorians are conscious and have been waging an internal war, and it was going to be at the microbe level of them battling it out for the control of the Force. That was what the sequels were.
Okay, so is what he envisioned like Fantastic Journey? You know, where they go inside that human body and it's like,
you know, it was hard to tell whether it was Fantastic Journey or Ant-Man in the Microverse or what was that movie with Chris Rock as a cartoon in
something Jones, right?
Yeah,
sneezing thing.
Yeah, Osmosis Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hard to tell from his description what he was really looking at.
Is that what we're supposed to be watching? Is like,
it was crazy. Okay, there was no other way to put it. It was
crazy. Look like amoebas.
Like, that's why he was also putting off making the sequel trilogy. Was even he knew people are not going to go for this.
I mean, how do they communicate? Is it just everything going to have to be narrated? Okay, there's two.
Yeah, it was some crazy shit.
Robots. If there is a car in my garage with the hood up, it's most likely that I'm under than the mister. If I were a robot, I'd be masculine.
I just always thought of masculine as the people who do not think of their own safety. Like whenever when I hear
is masculine.
Yes, when I hear boys will be boys, I think of what will get you killed most likely. That to me is the real boys will be boys. That is not wisdom what you were doing there. Why are you trying to die early? That is to me what is, boys will be boys. Not this how to excuse being an awful person.
Right.
But, just that, maybe some personal safety equipment?
Is that a feminine trait of like, hey, I don't want to die today?
Yeah, like I may have things to look after at home. At least that's what I kind of came to understand masculine versus feminine.
Okay.
Is, masculine are rather like, I ain't got shit at home. If I die, oh well, but this could be fun. I want a story.
So somebody who's mildly depressed and in need of some stabilizers.
This says a lot about, modern men, doesn't it?
I mean, at least you're saying a lot about modern men in your interpretation. Yeah. Okay. So we're learning some Broadway history. MM says Detroit becomes human genderized robots based on the whims of the humans.
No, it's a game. It's a game called Detroit Become Human.
Detroit Become Human?
Well, it's Detroit : Become Human.
Good Lord, I cannot keep up. Is that really a game?
Yes, it's a weird title, I know.
It is a weird title. Okay.
Where then it's, gendered robots based on the whims of...
All right, if we want to talk about gendered robots, I would like to recommend Saturn's Children by Charles Stross. One of the very few books that I actually really enjoyed. Trigger warning, there is robot rape in there. There's also 2 robot sexual scenes that involve a boat docking. The sexual scenes just made me uncomfortable. They were not a turn on. The rape scene was very triggering as somebody who has been raped. I was like, oh, this is way too realistic. But if you either skip it or you are just interested in that, the book itself is fantastic. And it's sort of like a heist action adventure-y book. Highly recommend it. But, I just feel like people should be warned on that stuff because holy cow, I had no idea what I was getting into. I still loved it, though. Yeah. Eva says, more nurturing as feminine is a construct we need to remove. Yeah. Actually, look, all right. So as somebody with an education degree and who was a nanny for about a solid decade, I have found that boys between the ages of 4 and 7, 4 and 8 are actually far more nurturing than most girls of that age. I was always far more willing to trust the little boys at that age who wanted to hold the baby or hold the kitten, because I always put him on the couch first so that they're not moving with the small creature. But they're far more gentle and kind versus, I've had, at least around here, some experiences with girls who definitely, were forced to hold the baby, were not interested in the baby, and also were not petting the kitten softly or what have you. So it has been my experience that definitely boys can be very, very nurturing, and it is a shame that society makes them stop being that way. Also, by the way, at that age, they love to vacuum. And I love that they vacuum. I will give a 4-year-old a vacuum in a heartbeat. If it's too heavy for them, I'll just be behind them, help guiding it. But they're so happy, the look of joy on little kids' faces when they're vacuuming. I love that so much. Anyway, off topic. Yeah,
but girls, I'm looking forward to, the next 40 years, as we definitely have some changes with gender and all these weird concepts that are not, that people, try to tell themselves are somehow based on genetics and nature and are really just constructs society created for its benefit. Constructs.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I'm not
against says, wear your dress, do you hear? Keep your legs crossed, etc. Tomboy is a girl that isn't feminine in her choices, right? How many girls do you know that were tomboy versus not tomboy?
You and those Tonka trucks.
I was, okay, for the record, I was that girl in the Pretty Pretty Princess pink or lavender outfit dress with the Tonka trucks, destroying a whole wall of blocked wall. We had all these wooden blocks, that had been carved out, and they were really, building blocks. And I'd make a walled city, and then the Tonka trucks coming through, and I'm doing it with a freaking crown and a dress and petticoat on, as a little kid. And this did not seem weird to me. It felt absolutely freaking natural.
Glory really identified with Star in the first season.
Yes, Star versus the Force of Evil. Yeah, Star Butterfly, or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
MM says, but I was a girl who hunted and climbed cliffs without ropes and caught snakes for fun. Yep, good old snakes. It's time to give them a little trauma. Yes. See, Joe March is a classic example. Exactly. It was one of the books that my mother, introduced me to as in middle school, with the bribe of, if you read the book, I'll find the movie for you. And I'm like, and then I found out there were several, and we got to watch them all. It was great. Eva says, I'm a hummingbird with an eye patch and a scar over my beak. All right. You're just flirting now. I'm really into this. What's happening? I want to know. Is it a pirate hummingbird? I'm so here for this. Okay. MM says, I'm Hoteps.
Emoteps.
Thank you. Imhoteps. Famous fungus killed us all. Is that the story name? Should I Google it? When will it be published? Let me know. CB says, I love cats on stage both times when I saw it, but the film, oh dear. And I wanted there to be a Starlight Express movie, but I doubt it will ever happen. Are we talking about that anime Starlight Express, or are we talking about...
No. Every decade, what's his name rewrites it. It's the one with the train. It's written by the same person as Cats.
Okay, because like the Starlight Express anime one had a train, so it was like from the 70s or 80s. It was really weird.
Yeah, you're thinking of something else.
I must be thinking of something else.
I think you're thinking of like Galaxy 999 or something.
I don't know. Probably. Yeah, I don't know. We'll find out. Eva says, yes, I wouldn't wear pants, only dresses or skirts until I was 7, but I had a Hot Wheels birthday and a WWF birthday before they... Yes! Yes! Wrestling! Yes!
CB, did you have a WWF one?
Yes. CB's got like the whole McMahon family drama. There's a lot going on. Yeah, CB, come on. What? There. Yeah, I was similar wearing a dress and leggings and playing wrestling. Yes, absolutely. Because dresses are awesome. Because you twirl and it goes up and looks so pretty and sparkle. Okay. I feel bad for all the boys who didn't get to wear dresses, honestly, because dresses are fun.
I love me some kilts.
Yeah, pants are nice, skirts are nice, shorts are nice. Let's do them all. MM says, tomboy girl who would also walk through Walmart in stilettos at 2 a.m. after leaving the club with a 50-pound bag of dog food over my shoulder because my pups were more important than people's opinions. Amen.
Can we just all give a clap at the impressiveness of carrying 50 pounds in stilettos?
Look, I don't know that I could carry 50 pounds in sneakers, to be quite honest. It's like I'm going to need a cart, y'all.
Like, that's some impressive balance right there.
Also, the Sherpa ability to just lug. I'm very impressed. Just saying.